In the unpublished 1972 article, Liberation of the Female Artist, Judy Chicago and Miriam Shapiro wrote the following about Woman House. Woman House is based on the relationship to homes and houses that women have always had. Much of female creativity has gone into this making of comfortable and pleasing environments for themselves and their families. We wondered what might these environments look like if they didn't need to be functional and if fantasy and imagination took over. Woman House was the first project of the Feminist Art Program, or FAP, at the California Institute of the Arts. Miriam Shapiro and Judy Chicago founded the Cal Arts chapter of the FAP in the fall of 1971 with 21 students. Led by Judy Chicago and Miriam Shapiro, 21 students along with 3 local fiber artists took over a dilapidated house and transformed it into the quote-unquote first female expression of art. While Woman House was a fantastic representation of a search for and a critique of femininity, it was also and continues to be foundational for women exploring feminisms. Woman House arose first from a need for space. In the fall of 1971, the Cal Arts campus was not available for students to attend classes, so the women in the Feminist Art Program began meeting in each other's living rooms. FAP art historian Paula Harper suggested that the women find and create a unique exhibition space. 522 Mariposa Street became the site of the exhibition, found by 3 very persistent students. 522 Mariposa Street was a dilapidated mansion in downtown Los Angeles, which required repairs before the students could create art. The students learned how to install windows, put up walls, lay down flooring, install banisters, and other construction-like tasks before they even made art. Woman House opened to the public on January 27, 1972, and the exhibition ran until February 28th. At least 4,000 people came to see the exhibition. In total, there were 20 environments and 7 performances in the house. Performances happened in the living room on Friday and Saturday evenings, except for Karen Lecoq, who enacted Leia in her and Nancy Yodelman's room sporadically. Woman House's environments and performances were based in fantasy. Judy Chicago's menstruation bathroom depicts the plethora of feminine hygiene products we hide in cabinets and in trash baskets, or what 2 male viewers called a disturbing level. In Joanna Dimitrakis' film Woman House, they pondered that perhaps whoever owned this house was really very sick because they created a lot of blood. Faith Wilding's crocheted environment imagined what would happen if a woman started crocheting and never stopped. The Kitchen by Robin Welch was entirely painted pink. Every oatmeal box, every spatula, every nook and cranny was pink. Opening the drawers to a shelving unit revealed images of faraway places, the hidden fantasies of cooking and cleaning housewives. Vicky Hodgett's Eggs to Breast lined the pink walls of the kitchen in a very surrealistic way. Beth Bockenheimer laminated stockings to put in the laundry room. Never get another run, never wash another stocking. Nightmare Bathroom by Robin Schiff depicted a woman made of sand in a tub while a giant spider loomed over her. The overwhelming darkness of internal thoughts. Potions and lotions filled the medicine cabinet. And Sandra Orgel ironed and re-ironed the same sheet continuously during her maintenance performances, dressed in her grandmother's apron. So the environment, lipstick bathroom, and the performance 3 women are fantastic, unrealistic, and at times essentializing. However, lipstick bathroom and 3 women are also grounded in feminist theory and lived experience. It's this grounding in theory and lived experience that draws viewers and fans to Woman House even now. Camille Gray's installation, Lipstick Bathroom, both embodies and questions the fantastical feminine fulfillment trope. Lipstick Bathroom is located on the 2nd floor of Woman House, and every inch of the bathroom is covered in a sticky-looking red paint, capturing the sense that the entirety of the room is covered in lipstick, as if a woman put on lipstick and then continued painting the entire room. There are only 2 images of the room that are readable. The shine on the red paint made it nearly impossible to capture a good image. But from the images and the video clip that I will show you from Joanna Dimitrakis' Woman House film and Gray's description from the exhibition catalog, the room seemingly becomes a feminine sanctuary. There are hundreds of little lipsticks lining the medicine cabinet, every shade of red that you could possibly imagine and purchase. The tub is lined with fur and is used as a drying rack for multiple pieces of lingerie. It's a place where one can go to become a woman, to be consumed by feminine products. Let's see this one. This is just a short clip of Joanna Dimitrakis doing kind of a walkthrough of Lipstick Bathroom. Draws on the idea of the mystique of feminine fulfillment to define the genders in radically opposite terms and chastise those unfeminine or sterile. Betty Friedan in The Feminine Mystique discusses the fulfillment problem as one directly related to a woman's identity issue. The feminine mystique says that the highest value and the only commitment for women is the fulfillment of their own femininity. Beneath the sophisticated trappings, it simply makes certain concrete, finite, domestic aspects of feminine existence, as it was lived by women whose lives were confined by necessity to cooking, cleaning, washing, bearing children, into a religion, a pattern by which all women must now live or deny their femininity. Fulfillment as a woman had only one definition for American women after 1949, the housewife mother. If you happen to be unhappy also, then the secret to feminine fulfillment always meant more. More children, a bigger house, more appliances, to free up your time, etc. And Lipstick Bathroom explores the feminine mystique and harnesses the anger felt by women. This feminine sanctuary quickly falls apart with more investigation. Hundreds of little lipsticks are lined up on the medicine cabinet, but they are not usable. Gray writes, quote, 200 plastic lipsticks painted repeated colors that will not stain her lips. Making matters worse, the mirror is covered in red paint, rendering it useless for application. The uselessness of the lipsticks and the mirrors create a worthless place. Gray also writes, all that has entered has been painted lipstick red, yet this stage is so absurd. Everything supposedly becomes feminine in the room, but overly feminine, aggressively feminine. The color is not a soft color like the soft pink flesh the kitchen was meant to evoke. It is a harsh, blinding color. It is an angry color. The best feminist is the ideal that the students in the feminist art program strove to achieve. The best feminist rejected gendered behavior like using makeup. The best feminist questioned capitalism and the need to buy things to make you happy. The best feminist made feminist art, art that was personal, craft-based, and or performance-based. Gray might have been seen as a bad feminist. She wrote to Awuki Muller for the RE Tracing the Feminist Art Program online project that she was very unhappy when she was in the feminist art program. Quote, the group was cold and critical. The women offered no support and were very mean to me, unquote. This was partially because Gray was a very feminine woman and she spoke often about her boyfriend. Gray's sense of community that should have grown from the program instead made her feel extremely isolated. The tone of her letter to the RE Tracing the Feminist Art Program is angry, both at herself for not being stronger to stand up for herself and her beliefs, as well as pointedly at the feminist art program's lack of respect for women who express different views. So because of this inadequacy that Gray felt in comparison, a new reading of Lipstick Bathroom is possible. In her installation, Gray was mocking a feminist's extreme reaction to reject anything feminine. By covering a whole room in what appears to be lipstick and feminine articles of clothing, Gray is challenging their ideas of what a feminist, a good feminist, should look like. She clearly understands the gendered behavior as a ridiculous farce, as expressed in her exhibition catalog essay. However, the overwhelming shade of red and the anger she expresses towards the FAP indicates her challenging of the complete rejection of makeup. It's almost as if she's saying, oh, you don't like that I wear makeup? Well, here's a whole room covered in lipstick. Her room provides this kind of struggle with makeup and identity, which I think we can still see today in feminist culture. This idea of girly culture, femme culture, YouTube makeup tutorials, and debates over whether Beyoncé is a feminist. The performance entitled Three Women took place every Friday and Saturday night at 8 p.m., along with the maintenance pieces, Cock and Cunt Play, Birth Trilogy, and Waiting. Performance was seen by Judy Chicago as a way to explore new ideas, similar to role-playing in therapy. Performing roles and characters would allow women to act out and embody emotions and scenarios that may have been too intimidating or taboo for real-life enactment. The performances in Woman House were meant to dissolve preconceived notions about a woman's place in the home, and that she derived meaning from such home crafting tasks. In the performance, three women, Jan Oxenberg, Shawnee Wooleman, and Nancy Udelman, performed three different types of women: Sparkle, the tough hustler; Rainbow, the hippie chick; and Rosalind, the naive romantic figure, were dressed in costumes prepared by Udelman and slathered with makeup. The three performers sat on pillows and spoke semi-prepared speeches, both directed to the audience and to each other, based on collective experiences shared in consciousness-raising sessions by the women artists. And at first, the characters seem very comical, extreme portrayals of women. Lay your money on the table, baby, and I'll lay my body on the bed, says the hustler. Like, my body belongs to the universe, says the hippie chick. Someday I'll find a man who can really appreciate me, says the romantic. However, as the performance continues, the characters became less of the types they represented and more relatable.
The artists gathered for one final session, where each one related what Woman House meant to her.
But, you know, it's like now I can sit here and I just feel good.
Right, tell us about Sparkle. I think Sparkle did it.
Yeah, well, all right, I'll talk about Sparkle.
Tell us how you wear pink all the time now, too.
I mean, all right, you know, we were at Judy's house, you know, and like we wanted to do something with role-playing. So we had all these costumes. So Nancy, it was all your fault, Nancy. Nancy dressed me up in this ridiculous white wig and a belly dancer outfit. I'd always been sort of uptight about my body, and I'd never pictured myself in that role as like this person would go out and flaunt my body, you know. Here she is, the one and only Sparkle, you know.
Here she is, the one and only. I really knocked him out at the pit tonight, girls. You should have seen dancing, shaking it up. You know, it took him an hour to mop up the floor with all those guys drooling all over.
It was like supposed to be from our real lives, you know, the story of our real lives sort of taken to an extreme, you know. And like all those feelings that I was always so afraid of, really, of being this toughie, you know, and, you know, being like, so here, you know, I'm a lesbian and everyone's going to say I'm a dyke, you know, and there's a stereotype and blah, 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 you know. And then, like, I was just telling Jan the other day that somehow, like, every week getting dressed up and putting that wig on and putting makeup on, and I had never tweezed my eyebrows my entire life. And I'd always wondered what I would look like if I tweezed my eyebrows, but I always thought the pain wasn't worth it, you know. And then I found myself, like, getting into wearing all these really feminine clothes, wearing pink and tweezing my eyebrows. And so, like, I feel like in the feminist art program, like, everybody's turning their hair. It's like everybody's going this way, and I'm going this way.
Jacket, you know, you should have seen this jacket. It had black, shiny leather on it. Like, it had these Nazi crosses, you know. And like it even had this skull on the back with wings, you know. It was really beautiful, dear. Like, that jacket was really art, you know. And like everybody really dug that jacket. And he let me wear it because, like, then everybody would know I was this chick, you know. One time we had this party. Somebody brought this really good stuff, really heavy dope, and like reds, you know, like, and like they were all taking these reds, you know, like somebody asked me if I wanted to take some reds, you know, and like I said, no, man, like, you know, I'm not into reds at this time, you know. That's what I said. like, I don't know, they started doing this weird thing, you know, like, they started taking off my clothes, and like, you know, I thought they wanted me to dance or something, you know, like, so I was just flowing with it, you know, and like really into it, you know, and like, then they put me in the shower, man, and like they turned on the water and they started washing me, and like they were like rubbing me and everything, and like, I don't know, it was cold, you know, and like, then this guy, like, he pulled back my head, you know, and I couldn't see, and the water was running in my face and everything, and like somebody brought out like a handful of reds and they put them in my mouth, like they pulled my mouth open and stuck them in there, and I couldn't breathe, and I was choking, you know, and I had to swallow them, man, like all those reds, you know, and like they just, like it came on really fast after that, you know, and like, I don't know what happened, like I was so stoned, you know, I was so out of it, like the next thing I knew, they put me on this bed, man, and like, I don't know, they all started like getting on top of me and like taking turns following me and stuff, and it was really weird, and I don't know, I couldn't move, and like I was so out of it, I don't know, it just went on for a long time, man, and like, I don't know, I guess I just passed out or something, man. It's like I woke up a long time after that, and like everybody was gone, you know, and like they'd taken all my clothes, man, and like they'd even taken that jacket, you know, like I never did find that jacket again, you know, and I never saw my old man after that. I heard he got busted or something, you know? Like, I don't know, you know? You just gotta stay above that shit, you know? You gotta really, like, let it get to you, you know? You gotta keep putting out good...
The beginning of the video will show Jan Oxenberg talking about her role as Sparkle in a consciousness-raising group, and then the second part of the clip will show Shawnee Wolleman's enactment of Rainbow, or the hippie chick. Rainbow the hippie chick does discuss an instance of rape, so if you are uncomfortable hearing it, you feel free to leave the room. It's only a 4-minute clip, and it's not very graphic, but just in case. So Sparkle, the hustler, portrayed by Oxenberg, ventured through her performance to try and arrive at a place where she was comfortable in her overt sexuality, to be empowered yet sexual woman in a role that even today is difficult to traverse, as seen in Femme Fatales, The Show Girls, etc. Drawing on feminist frames of thinking and other female artists like Carolee Schneemann, Sparkle questions the role and purpose of sexual activity. She sees herself as powerful, quote, bringing men to their knees. It would be appropriate to nickname her Olympia, for she represents the same kind of attitudes towards sexuality. The tough hustler persona who aims to please men reveals a deeper connection to sexuality and power. Rosalind, the romantic portrayed by Nancy Udelman, makes an attempt to examine her pattern of behavior with men. While there is no video footage of Nancy Udelman's performance, I corresponded with her via email and received some insightful details from her. Rosalind begins to speak to the audience while applying makeup at a small table, and she states that she has so much to give a man, which continues her affiliation with the feminine caretaking role. Her emphasis and energy lie not with self-development, but her willingness to care for others. However, as she continues to speak, Rosalind begins to waver as the caretaker. When she attempts to show affection or get close to a man, she's surprised by the outcome. Udelman recalls her character wondering at the disappearance of a man after they had engaged in sex. Rainbow the hippie chick, as portrayed by Shawnee Wolleman, attempted in her performance to address her gang rape, to make sense of what had happened to her. She begins her speech by chastising the hustler, saying that she's filled with negativity, man. The audience laughs with and at Rainbow, as she talks about dropping acid, expressing love for the universe, and how she aims to be positive all of the time. Her overuse of the words like and man signifies her lack of intelligence and creates a light atmosphere. The audience enjoys Rainbow as comic relief. She appears to be mocking the hippie culture of peace and love, but the audience becomes deathly silent once they're aware of what Rainbow is sharing, that she was gang raped at a party. Unfortunately, as much as the three characters struggle against limiting roles, they are forced back into their identities due to habit and lack of options. While each of the women appears to be on the brink of a feminist breakthrough, they fall back into their familiar patterns. Rosalind, after questioning her caretaking role, finishes her performance by again pining for a husband. Rainbow, after explaining her gang rape, shakes her head and talks about positivity, not letting it all get to you, man. Sparkle, while exploring sexuality, concludes her performance by denying her own power and presence. The types explored in Three Women reveal the power of performance to create situations of potential change. The performances of Woman House predated Judith Butler's exploration of women's roles as performance. She argued that the way that women adjust and utilize gender roles is much more like a performance. The roles, passive, turn into acts, an aggressive choice. Women are actively engaged in gendered acts and are, quote, compelled by social sanction and taboo. The repetitious nature of gendered acts enforces its binary status. To reject the gendered acts puts the individual outside of society's acceptance. Three Women uses gender as performance to demonstrate the trivial nature of binary definitions of women. The good Victorian lady had sex before marriage. The bad hustler wanted to see herself as empowered. The dumb hippie chick attempts to address a problem other than her love of drugs and parties. And through this kind of consciousness raising with the audience, the characters almost have a feminist awakening. However, each character succumbs to invisible societal pressures, regaining her feminine essence and causing no alarm. This is me in front of the dollhouse. Sorry, it's really blurry. Woman House is very personal for me. I have difficulty removing myself from the narrative when I write and talk about it because Woman House was the first work of art that I completely related to. I saw pictures of it and I inherently understood it. It felt like the artists were speaking directly to me about my own life and my own inner struggles. And I'm not the only one who finds Woman House to be so powerful. My generation has used Woman House as a foundation for their own feminisms and exploration into feminist art. We have kept it alive by telling and retelling the narrative of Woman House, like a feminist campfire story. A whole talk could and should be dedicated to these contemporary offshoots, but very quickly, some examples are Jeu de Chicago literally recreated Woman House in 2001 in At Home, Kentucky project. The image on the right is a bathroom example called Eating Disorder Bathroom. Woman House zine by Molly Davy is one of my favorites. It's a zine by Molly Davy when she was a student at the University of Michigan, and she learned about Woman House and was so inspired that she started making a zine about feminism and feminist art. And there were only 5 issues of it. But it's really great. And then Alexandra Grant and Channing Hansen kind of recreated their own version of Crocheted Environment for the Pacific Art exhibits in 2011. So for me, Woman House is so important, not only because it's this fantasy-filled aesthetic world that tries to tear down the patriarchy, but also because it's grounded in this lived experience. It speaks to who I am as a woman, and it makes me feel connected to other women. Jeu de Chicago and Miriam Shapiro wrote in The Liberation of the Female Artist, quote, "Our experiences as artists have been similar to other women. We have struggled to sustain ourselves in the isolation of our studios. We have been seen at art parties, heard at art openings, included in art magazines, yet we feel alienated until we encountered each other." Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I was just really interested in that last bit when you talked about the sort of legacies of Women's House.
Yeah.
I was wondering how you deal with those particular kinds of manifestations, particularly when, as you say, Woman House is like this massive canonical thing. If you're interested in feminist art, it kind of hits you in the face, like the big book that it's describing.
Right.
And so, like, how do you then deal with those feminist projects in that they're not quite echoing what was being done in the 70s. Instead, they're kind of almost it's a nostalgia almost. It's
right.
like harkening back to
right.
our foremothers kind of thing.
I kind of, so in my master's thesis about Women House, I used fan fiction theories, actually, in the 3rd chapter to talk about it, because the issues with authorship are really interesting. They're not just straight recreations of performance. There are some straight recreations of performances, but most of them are these kind of you kind of put yourself in the spot of Woman House and kind of if I was in Woman House, what would I do? Or using it as this kind of foundation. So I found that Michel Desserteau's theories on authorship and this kind of third, it's not copying, but it's something else. And so I use a lot of that kind of to talk about fans of feminism and how fans kind of use Woman House to create their own unique but slightly similar works. Sorry.
Excusez-moi, je n'ai pas toujours très bien compris. Quel est le rôle exact de cette Woman House à Los Angeles? Est-ce éphémère ou permanent?
Was it something that was just... Yes, it was just a month. C'était juste un mois. Elle était juste là pendant un mois.
The building was torn down afterwards. There's apartments now. And so the dollhouse is the only piece that's in a public art collection. I think there's Nancy Udelman owns one of the stockings, and Faith Wilding owns one of the eggs to breasts. But that's, I think, all that exists at Woman House currently. Hmm?
And what happened to most of the then students?
Oh.
Did they continue that way, or did they change completely?
No, I think most of them continued art, at least on some level. Some of them have had some good success as artists. Faith Wilding and Mira Shore they both show regularly in New York and have, I think Faith just had a retrospective. Nancy Udelman continues to make art. Karen Lecoq continues to make art. I'd say probably about half of them continue to make art.
And is it still feminist, or did they move on? Did they have other event to which they...
So some of them do mostly still lives and landscapes now, but probably a third of them are still feminist artists. But they all still identify as feminist artists, as feminists.
Any other question?
They haven't come, except for that one instance that you showed, they haven't come together to work collectively. Again, because it comes back to that very good question about the individual and the collective. And of course you can have a bunch of women artists who get together and put up a show, this is your work, and then you can put them all together and have a salon where everyone is working together, and then the work becomes something that is collective. So this is why Women House is so important for me, because they were all working in the same space together. Right. So even though if there were some who were very, important artists who chose to work in this way or to work in that way, they still were all there working together collectively all the time to get this result of what they showed.
Right. No, I think a few of the artists have exhibited together. I think Momenta Art Gallery in New York City had an exhibit put on by Susie Spencer where only a few of the women artists.
But they weren't working together.
No, they weren't.
Some curator went to each studio and they were living in different places, and the curator said, I'm going to put these three together because they were originally in Women's House. Right. They didn't continue, these women didn't continue the conversation.
No, half of the students came from Fresno with Judy, and so they were used to Judy Chicago's style, and then the other half... the other half were not used to that, and they were very upset. Mira Shore famously tells how she kind of led a revolution because she was very upset that she wasn't making art. They were just doing construction. They were building walls. They were, they were cleaning a house. That wasn't to them what they were paying to go to CalArts for, which CalArts was very expensive at the time. And so there was this kind of disjunction between that and, it was... But now, I think with 20, 30, 40 plus years later, they appreciate it and they really enjoyed their time, but with distance. So, yes.
Now, considering how this Women House really means something so important for you, and,
yes.
and really moving forward, I totally agree, there's lots of young women artists for whom that's important. How does this information process and figure into that?
Well, I think it helps me deal with this kind of idealism versus reality. When Judy Chicago and Miriam Shapiro talk about the feminist art program, they talk about it like it was a greenhouse, and it was like women coming together and collaboratively working, and everything was in harmony, and you had consciousness raising sessions. But then you kind of get these instances of like Camille Gray being like, yeah, but nobody liked me. And, I think for me, it makes me feel better, because striving to this idealistic goal is very difficult for me to settle with, because I can't make Woman House. But, yeah.
I'd just like to ask you to speak also, since you're here from Rutgers, and
Sure.
Rutgers very famously has a really important department for women artists
Yes.
now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd like you to speak to that just for a minute, and if you see those women working collectively, or each one is in their studio working independently, how it works. Is there a much larger percentage of women artists at Rutgers? It's very famously, Martha Rosler is there, right? Is she retired now, Martha
Yes.
Rosler? But didn't
Yeah.
she start that, wasn't she in that department?
Yes, so there's a few kind of important women artists parts of Rutgers. There's the Center for Women in Arts and Humanities that was founded in 2007, I believe. And then we have the Miriam Shapiro Archive of Women Artists at the library. And then I do believe that there's a strong women presence in the MFA and BFA programs. But yeah, so women, because we had Douglas College at Rutgers, we have always had an interest in gender and women, and specifically in the arts. The Douglas College had the Women's Artist Series, which was starting in 1971, I believe, exhibited primarily women artists 3 or 4 times a year. So for Rutgers, it's extremely important for us to document women artists, yeah. But there are miscellaneous collectives of women artists that kind of pop up every now and then. There's a group currently, I think you can find them on Instagram. It's like Muslim feminist artists, and they're all working together to talk about their Muslim identity and their identity as Muslim feminists.
Thank you.
Just as an addendum, Carol Walker just left Columbia to go to Rutgers.
Yes.
So that's a major movement in a certain direction.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sorry for the